Welcome to today's video, and in today's video we will be doing an AEW Maximum Carnage review, but we will start this off with some kind of breaking news that happened before and after the show. But what happened after the show is Powerhouse Hobbs' contract runs out at midnight tonight. As of the recording of this video, it'll be Thursday morning. It'll be out of AEW and potentially looking like he's going to WWE as of a Sean Ross Sapp report.
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy because it obviously there was kind of rumors over the past few weeks of WWE had interest in Hobbs. Obviously, you know, he fits the mold of a WWE superstar, so you kind of knew that when his contract would eventually expire, he would have that interest. But it was a matter of when that contract does expire, and I guess that it was today. And yeah, very surprising. Although it will suck to see him leave AEW because I think he's a guy who kind of definitely rose up his first debut to where he is at right now. I think he's definitely improved a ton, and I think you kind of watched that through his matches. But going to WWE, I think his peak will be higher. I think there's a potential for him to go that main roster and be a top level guy.
I think in AEW he was just now kind of peaking, and like every single week it seemed like he was breaking his peak and he was getting more popular and more popular. He had the Hangman match at Blood and Guts, which we were lucky enough to see in person. And yeah, he is just that monster of a man. I'll be happy to see him in WWE, but of course it is sad to see him leave AEW because he was in a pretty good position there, being a trios champion with Samoa Joe. Obviously he could have had a lot more potential as a single star and winning a world champion or something at some point in time, but that didn't work out. You know, maybe at some point in time he could go back to AEW and kind of right those wrongs at some point. But you know, as we said, big breaking news there. But then something that happened before the show that kind of got broke before AEW started was the Rascals from TNA are officially signed to AEW, all four of them. So yeah, that's another very exciting thing for AEW and maybe not so much for TNA.
Yeah, it's another crazy one because these were four guys who kind of felt like they were a good fit in TNA. However, now joining AEW, I will say that I think their style fits the AEW style just a little bit more. But yeah, I think overall the potential of the Rascals would just be turned about how much they want to push a big faction still. Obviously, we've seen big factions like the Don Callis family. You have Death Riders. You have people like the Elite who've obviously a lot of members. But the Rascals being four guys, you have a tag team, you have a trios, you have some singles guys. So I think no matter how you use them, as long as you do use them, you have some great stars.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of hope that they'll get like a ton of time or anything. I mean, we've seen Ace Austin come in. He hasn't really done a ton, at least main, you know, good TV time at least. Josh Alexander, he's kind of the difference between that. He has gotten some pretty good TV time. He's had two Kenny Omega matches actually. So yeah, he's been doing pretty good stuff, I guess. Yeah, I don't have super high hopes that I'm using them in like a super crazy way or anything. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of big factions there, and I think that there'll be an exciting point of TV. And yeah, obviously sucks for the TNA side of things as well. They lose another person as well as just recently losing Jake something to them. So yeah, definitely a loss for them. I wish, you know, they got their AMC money and use that to re-sign some of these people, but looks like it kind of wasn't in the cards, and even if it was in the cards, Tony Khan could always outbid them anyway.
Yeah, so yeah, Rascals being in AEW, I think, like I said, the peak of them in AEW, I think, might not be as high as it would have been in TNA, just because I feel like one of them could have, like Desmond Xavier, or I guess Wes Lee, formerly known, I think he could have been a world champion at some point in time. But yeah, I love that Rascals going there. I think their matches will kind of prove again why they are some of the best wrestlers in the world. I think that will become another big point. I think their pay-per-view matches, when they get into the tag team division, will be amazing.
But we are going to kick this off with the show going forward now. And we have Pac versus Darby Allin starting this one off. And I guess the big point of this match was likely going to be the big belly-to-belly suplex from Pac onto Darby Allin to the steps on the outside of the ring. Made a big, loud impact noise whenever he slammed them on. And it was a pretty rough bump for him to take. But it's Darby Allin. He's very well known to take those sort of bumps. But Darby Allin does get his revenge with a coffin drop to the outside of the ring. But then we see a ref bump happen. Darby Allin puts a chair over Pac's ankle, does another coffin drop onto the chair on his ankle, puts him in a scorpion deathlock to pick up the win.
Yeah, I really love this match. It feels like a good remembrance match for who is Darby Allin, who is Pac. I think this kind of, you see Darby Allin play kind of the old school role of just getting thrown around, selling his ass off. Obviously, the moves he takes, he doesn't have to deserve a lot of selling. But yeah, Darby Allin just looks amazing in here. Pac with this new look, he obviously is able to be one of the most unique wrestlers now, where he's able to do all the high flying stuff, but can also now incorporate more powerhouse stuff as well. So yeah, I love these two guys. I hope Pac continues to be in the singles division and get some big moments this year, because I think he is a guy who should be at the top of the mid card and should get some type of goal by the end of this year.
Yeah, Darby Allin officially, I believe, completes his goal and has defeated every member of the Death Riders. He did say he was going to end the Death Riders. That didn't come even close to happening. He ended up taking a lot of losses to them, in fact, leading up to this. So yeah, I don't necessarily like, the booking, that choice that they made with Darby Allin going forward. Obviously, I like it for Pac. He's looked very strong going into this. Since his return, he's been really good at Blood and Guts. He had a big moment with Darby Allin there. He looked really strong throughout that match. And ever since then, he's kind of took off, and it looks like he's kind of the new big heel rather than Jon Moxley at the moment. Next, we see Samoa Joe backstage, and he puts a bounty on Hangman Adam Page from Brian Keith, where we then see them in a match a little bit later on in the night. And after a lot of distractions from Big Bill, Swerve comes in to even the odds for him to allow Hangman to get a pretty quick win here, and that kind of leads to a big promo after the match, where we see Hangman say he is coming after Samoa Joe for sending that bounty, so we can see a lot more from them going forward. I expect potentially some tag team matches with him and Swerve, whatever that may be. But then we also see Swerve start talking, and he says he is going after MJF. But that is still not all, because Kenny Omega then comes out. He also says he's going after MJF, but he also kind of mentions that he needs to earn his way to get to MJF, and he'll be going through the Don Callis family and kind of racking up wins through them, potentially leading up to his world title win whenever that may happen. But what do you think about this big kind of moment that happened here?
Yeah, I love that. It's a great way to show who is the guys in the world title picture right now. We know that MJF is going against Bandito later in the night, so you have that, but you now have Swerve, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page as your top guys now, and that's the guys who are going to be going after MJF if he is the one to retain. But yeah, I love that Kenny Omega's back. I hope he's somebody who can continue to be on pretty much on every week. I don't expect him to wrestle every week, but he's somebody who, when he's around, he's going to have that feeling. He restores the feeling, like he says. And yeah, I love that everybody has their own goals. They're not afraid to cross into each other's paths, because at the end of the day, they all have one mission, as to be the AEW World Champion. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who wins that first.
Yeah, it was a really good promo. Like you mentioned, showcasing all the people who's going after the world title, potential matchups in the future we could lead up to. And that's also everything, not including Will Ospreay, who will return at some point in the future. We don't know exactly when. Maybe he'll return before All In. That will probably be the hope from Tony Khan, that he'll have a match at All In. But yeah, big title shots coming for everyone. Kenny Omega coming out, earning this shot. He has a match with Josh Alexander next week to kind of kick things off for him. So that'll be very exciting to start to see Kenny Omega more on TV weekly. But up next, we see the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match to determine the #1 contenders to face FTR. It was between the Young Bucks, Jet Speed, GOA, and the Don Callis family members, Mark Davis and Jake Doyle, where we see Don Callis family pick up the win in an all over the place match where everyone got their spots, and then it was a pretty good match. Nothing too special to really write home about, but I do feel like people like Speedball Mike Bailey look really good through here. Jake Something looked really powerful throughout this match, and it was a pretty good match.
Yeah, I love the structure of this match. Everybody kind of, like you mentioned, getting their spots in. Everybody kind of interacting with one another. GOA kind of impressed me, I think, probably the most tonight. We've seen Toa Leona pull out a moonsault, a springboard moonsault in this match to the outside, which was pretty cool. Jake Something in his first Dynamite match shows off pretty well. Obviously, getting that win in the end is also a huge sign, so I hope that is something that can be continued on. Obviously, a guy, like we mentioned earlier, begun a new signing now from TNA. Hopefully, he's a guy that actually gets time and is not just a signing of just another depth guy, because I hope he is somebody who is a top guy within the next year or two, maybe. But yeah, Young Bucks being back, I love the Young Bucks being faces again. Their moveset kind of just complements it more, I'd say. And then Jet Speed continue to prove why they are one of the most consistent tag teams in all of wrestling, really, at this point. And yeah, next week we have Jet Speed teaming up with Hangman after the Trios champion, so that's going to be a big match. So even though they came up short, they still have something to look forward to next week.
Yeah, they definitely came out looking very good. As I mentioned, Speedball looked very good throughout this match. Obviously, him and Kevin Knight both always look really good in their matches, but specifically Speedball Mike Bailey I really liked tonight. But we're going to shortly talk about our next match before we move into our main event, and that is going to be the 6-woman tag team match, and that is going to be between the Triangle of Madness and the Babes of Wrath, with Chris Statlander, where we see Thekla get the pin over Chris Statlander, presumably setting up a match between them in the coming weeks.
Yeah, this match feels a little bit weird just because, like you said, it does feel like just an easy layup for for them to build the Thekla and Chris Statlander match, which I'm very for. I think that would be a great match. I'm assuming which would be Revolution. That is kind of a far way along. Maybe it is Grand Slam, I guess, as well. But yeah, I really do wish that we see more of the women tonight. This is the only women's segment, I believe, on the entire show. So I definitely wanted more from the women, but maybe whatever for that reason being, we see Chris Statlander next week do something with Thekla. I think that could be more interesting. But yeah, hopefully more women get time this time next week. And yeah, a little bit down on this segment, to be honest.
We're going to kick this one off with the main event of the night between MJF and Bandito for the AEW World Championship, where we see MJF retaining a crazy match between these two, where we see MJF do the Macarena, which powers up Bandito, and then he does the Macarena. We also see a crazy moment where MJF is on the outside of the ring in the crowd area, and then Bandito kind of jumps from the top rope over the barricade onto MJF into the crowd. It was a really cool setup from the arena for AEW tonight. They had a kind of a big gap between where the barricade was and the crowd, so they had a lot of room to kind of work with in that area, way more than usual in a wrestling event. But there was also a moment where he goes for his 21 plex, and he would have gotten the win if he was able to bridge out of it, but he didn't have the strength at that point in the match after getting kind of worked by MJF with his shoulder throughout it. But once he does finally get the pin, MJF does reverse that into a salt of the earth, into a label lock, and he does pick up the submission victory over Bandito tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this might be crazy to say, but I think this year, the best wrestler at the end of this year, I would not be surprised if it is Bandito. This is one of the best performances I think we've seen all year so far, and this is probably going to be my favorite match of the year so far, especially TV match. Bandito, just one of the guys who I think, when you look at when he first debuted in AEW, the peak of him was not very high, I think, for a lot of people. I think a lot of people thought he would kind of be floating around for a while and then eventually just go back to CMLL or just another company where he gets more time, but in just a year's time, he's now in the world title scene, and he gets the respect from MJF, having a great match here. And yeah, I would not be surprised if he's a guy who continues to have amazing matches and is, like I said, a wrestler of the year candidate. But MJF also loved this. Glad to see him back on TV. Kind of is like a Roman in a way where you don't see a lot of him, but when you do see him, you remember how good he is. This is a kind of typical match from him where you kind of see the more technical side of him and more strategic side, kind of more shades of like Ric Flair from MJF a lot in this match. But yeah, I love this match, and yeah, I'm glad that Bandito got the opportunity, but I guess MJF's reign would not come to an end tonight.
Yeah, he definitely has a long way to go. I do like your point about Bandito, because he was definitely someone when he was first kind of coming along, and even when people were starting to get behind him, it kind of took me a little bit longer to get behind him. I was kind of like, oh, he had a pretty good match. He had another one. At some point, I was like, man, he's had, 8 good matches in a row, 7 good matches in a row, whatever the case was. I was like, all right, yeah, he's definitely going to be a top guy, going into 2026. It looked like he's on to a strong start. But to end this show, after the match, we see MJF make a shocking statement that he believes Bandito will be a world champion one day, which he then proceeds by attacking him and then attempting to unmask him before Brody King comes out and makes the save for Bandito, stopping the unmasking from happening. But yeah, really cool moment there to see MJF give someone props for maybe the first time ever in AEW, at least as a heel. But yeah, really good stuff to end the show.
Yeah, like I said, I think this goes to prove on my point again of like Bandito is a guy who will be pushed a lot this year. So I think if you're a hater of Bandito, get used to it, buddy. Because yeah, he's a guy who's gonna be around. Like you said, MJF to have the moment of saying, look, I just had this match. You pushed me to my limit, but you do have my respect now. You are a top guy. You're gonna be a top guy. But still going back into the character and still attacking him. Hopefully setting up a match with Brody King potentially as well. I'd love to see that. It's a great TV match or pay-per-view match. But yeah, I love this entire main event. I think it was overall just very well put together. Helps both guys out a lot. And yeah, overall tonight for AEW was just a very strong night.